right, there we go. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. So I know you're a little bummed right now. But let's get this thing all started right. All right. So this is a Wednesday workshop. This is for you all, specifically for any questions that you have, whether it be about, operational issues at your job, whether it be about test prep questions. So whatever we've got going on. So I'll do a quick introduction, and then David and Alton, if I'm saying that right, if you guys can introduce yourselves, that'd be great. So Cecilio Mills here. Call me CJ. I'm a project management consultant, and I hold these calls here for anyone that needs help in the project management community. I'm a former CEO of PMI, the San Francisco Bay Area chapter, second largest chapter. I do hold the PMP, the ACP, Scrum Master, Lean Six Sigma, yada yada yada. I've got a bunch of other titles behind my name. Those aren't important. What's important is that I'm a teacher first. That was my first career. And so I'm here to just sort of teach and also to pay forward all of the great things that many gurus have, put their arms around me and they've told me over the years, and I just want to pay it back. So so that's that. So maybe David, if you can introduce yourself, and then Alton, you can go next.
David Canlis. I am a PMP currently pursuing an MBA through Pepperdine University. Go Waves. I'm just trying to. I'm in this like weird oasis in my life where I was pretty much allocated a bunch of scholarships to go do my MBA and all these certifications. So I'm just trying to get ahead. Professionally, I am a product manager, hoping to go into more of portfolio and platform management. And this is why I'm trying to take the advantage of really getting into the swing of things, especially on proving that I am capable of agile management, and even more so that I am relevant to the tech space because I work in tech. So.
All right. Well, thank you, David, for that. Alton, am I saying your name right? Alton? Is it Alton?
Yeah, I think he's in the library and he's just listening in.
Oh, he's just listening in. Okay, he's not. Alton, feel free to unmute yourself and join us. It's just us. You don't got to be shy. But if you're in the library, no, my wife's a librarian, so we got to keep it quiet in the library. I got that. All right, so David, so let me take a look here at
my scores.
Do you mind sharing? Is it
okay? Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Okay. All right, so you know what? Because I'm pretty sure to Alton, who I don't know if you're taking the PMP or the ACP. I mean, this is something that you're gonna have to experience through Pearson VUE anyway. And I don't mind sharing my scores. So going into the test this afternoon, felt pretty confident. I took your class through Project Management Academy, did all the lessons, did all the mini tests, did the practice test about 6 different times, and started scoring 82, 95. Oh, sorry, 87, 95, and then 82%. So I was well within above the ranges there. But today I took the ACP. Took me about an hour and 10 minutes to finish, and I scored way lower than I anticipated, and which makes me a little sad. Not gonna lie, but let's see here. I'm trying to find my scores.
Well, I have this image here that you sent me. But if you have it, it might look better because I have it on my phone.
Sure.
Let's see if I can go pull it up on LinkedIn.
I can probably just. Oh, you know what? It's through my email. I don't know why I'm trying to give myself a hard time. Sorry about that. I don't want to waste.
All right, you're flustered. You're flustered. You just went through this. You studied. You did everything you were supposed to do. You did multiple practice exams. You scored way higher than you needed, than most people will when they go and attempt the exam, and then you didn't pass. So
yeah, and you know what?
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've like I said during the intros, I am a PMP, so I did pass the PMP late last year before the test changed. And it took me 3 tries to do it. And I don't know whether or not there's just something intrinsically, it just makes it tough for me to take tests, maybe. But I mean, I get the subjects, and to add insult to injury, I've worked in Agile teams before. I've worked in Scrum Band teams, and I worked as a product owner. So I'm
let me let me start by saying this, David. Let me start by saying this. I have a guru who, when I first began teaching PMP, this guy could tell you. He could tell you go to page 364 of the PMBOK and it's going to be listed in the third paragraph. I mean, he probably forgot more about the PMBOK than I know, and it took
Mhm.
him 3 times to pass the exam. So
Right.
this is a guru. This is a master instructor. This is someone who trains other people. And the reason why I'm telling you that is that some people just don't do well on tests, right? There's some people who can they cannot attend course, they can study a little bit and they can just go pass exams. There's some people who can ace the courses, do everything right, and then they don't pass the exam. So,
Right. All
you
right.
know,
I have it in front of me now. I'm going to share my screen.
please.
Okay. So here are my abysmal scores. I am BT. I'm below target. I'm I'm about a quarter way through to passing, but this is actually more importantly.
You're
So
not well, first of all, scroll up. You're not that far off.
am I
All
not?
you need to do is get to the target. Passing is target. So
Right.
you are 2/3. If I'm looking at that half, 3/4, you're about 80% of the way, right? You're
Yeah.
just missing the last 20%. You just need to get to that middle blue line.
Right. So
Okay.
but this is the scarier part to me because uh the parts that I had struggled in and went back into in the practice exams, especially continuous improvement,
Mm-hmm.
I focused on that heavily on studying last night and as well as team performance, which I was like, okay, I'm struggling on these, but now I'm looking at my scores, agile principles, value driven delivery, and adaptive planning, which were my three strongest things through PMA. And
Mm-hmm.
now I'm like, oh, why am I struggling now? Actually, let me pull up my PMA Project Management Academy. Let's see here. My account.
And so for those of you guys that don't know on the course, I also teach the ACP course for Project Management Academy. I'm a consultant that they contract me to go out and deliver their material. So for those of you that are watching that have seen me or have taken my class and other vendors, just note that this is a little bit different, but ultimately it's still PMI's material that's being presented. But when David says PMA, he is referring to Project Management Academy.
Yeah.
Okay,
So this is
so
my
seeing your
project.
scores here.
Yeah. So
Uh-huh.
like on my last three exams, it's 88, 91, and 85. And what I ended up
Let's
doing
talk
was
real quick. Let's talk about those.
yes,
Let's go back and let's talk about those first 3 exams.
sure.
What happened in exam 2 and 3?
Exam two and three, I was just kind of clicking around and just try to
Okay.
blow through it and make like study guide and then just kind of go through it. Not so much on memorizing on what the order is of the answer and what does this sound like, but really going through the justifications. And plug for PMA. One of the great things about it is that they don't just give you the right answer; they actually give you the explanation of why it's the right answer. So I was actually heavily focusing on these bottom parts and really going to depth into them. And that's probably why I scored a little bit higher on the continuous improvement and team performance because I kind of went heavy on those. Whereas second here, let me go hit back. Whereas compared to like previously, I just kind of went about it. So I don't know, like I'm planning to take it again next week because
Mm-hmm.
I want to take it while I'm still fresh. And like you said, I'm I'm about 20% short of passing, right? So what could I do better, especially now looking at some of this stuff, especially on adaptive planning, problem detection, agile principles, which is just so insulting to me because I'm like, I know what the agile principles are because I lived in them and value driven delivery. So,
Okay.
and
So what
without
can you
going
do?
yeah. Oh, and sorry. And without, I know that there are ethical things that PMI holds us to as both PMPs. I don't want to go into great detail of what the questions that were asked, but I can at least share this. There were situational stuff where they interchanged the names to being agile, agile team member, agile project manager, agile product owner, uh, and it was a little bit weirded in a way where you don't know whether you're the scrum master or the product owner or one of the coders but it just kind of puts you in the situation of like, oh, what would you do? And then on the latter part of the exams, it started referring to you as a agile coach. So
Mm,
Scrum Master was, I think I only, well, I'm not gonna go say how many questions, but I've only saw a few questions that I saw that referring to me as a Scrum Master. But it did put me out in the loop. And one of the things I remembered you teaching in class was if you are a coach, you are not telling people what to do, you are recommending people. And I think I got those questions right when it said
okay.
coach, like, oh, I'm gonna go coach you through this rather than dictating on what the plans are. So I don't know. I just wanted to share that um because on the PMA side, it would directly refer to you as a scrum master, as a product owner. Whereas to the exam, it didn't really refer to me as anything. It just kind of assumed that I was part of an agile project team, and they didn't even call it product, but agile project team. And what would you do in this situation? And then a lot of the questions were very close together. It was a lot of situational stuff rather than like, oh, according to this, what do you do? And there were some stuff that even in real life, I'm like, I would do this, and I know I would do this. So it's a little confusing.
Okay. Okay. So if I got this right, you want to know what you can do different. Um, the difference between PMA and the PMI course is that PMA, they were very clear on the roles, product owner, product manager, scrum master, versus the PMI, they were not very clear. Um, you understood at least the agile coach versus the mentor part.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so the first thing that you can do is one, recognize that PMI's flavor of agile is not the same as what you see in the industry, a la scrum.org, scrumalliance.org, SAFE or SAFE, right?
Mm-hmm.
PMI has their own flavor. That's the first
Right.
thing. So take a deep breath and don't feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know agile. Like, right. It's you don't know PMI's version of agile. The
Right.
second thing is that yes, the way the PMP exam is, well, the PMP exam that you took, right, December 31st, 2020 and prior, the
Mm-hmm.
ACP exam is still structured in that manner where it's all multiple choice, A, B, C, or D. And that is very difficult for a lot of people. The new exam for the PMP exam actually has you interpret some charts and diagrams. It has some true false questions. It has it's a lot different than what you took. Some people think it's harder. As a person with the educational background, as a teacher, I think that's actually easier. It gives you a range and different modalities for you to learn from. So PMI has not updated the ACP exam in that manner yet. Now let's talk about well, first of all, I'm glad that you got the agile coach questions right. So,
Yeah, there's
I
still
did
some
something right
stuff
in the
that I'm
classroom.
kind of lost about that, right? Like, where do I actually call them as like agile coach or a mentor? Because again, don't want to ruin the test for everybody,
Right, right, right.
but like
Well, no, we're here. We're not going to ruin it. We're here to help everybody, and I'm glad you're here. All right. So in coaching, it's like this. When you coach, when you're an agile coach, you're there to upskill people. So you're helping
Mhm.
people get better at, like, say, writing user stories or acceptance criteria. You're helping product owners, what we call groom the backlog, or further expand and develop on the roadmap. What PMI would call, their term for that is, oh boy, it's escaping me. We call that, it's progressive elaboration. We
Yes,
progressively
yes.
elaborate, right? That's the PMI term. Okay.
Wait, sorry
Um,
for cutting off. Progressive elaboration only applies into uh, fixing up product backlogs, or progressive elaboration also applies to epics being broken down.
it can apply to epics being broken down. Progressive
Oh,
elaboration
multiple.
just means that
Got
you
it.
start at a high level, and as more information comes in, you get more and more granular. You start to get
Okay.
at a deeper level, right? So that would apply to anything that you break down, whether you go from epics to user stories to activities, tasks, subtasks, however that's scheduled, right? All right, so you got that versus a mentor. A mentor is going to come in and lend their experience and say, hey, I've been through this before. This is what's happened in my scenario. So, here's
Mhm.
what I think you should handle it in your scenario, right? That's the difference between a mentor and a coach.
So where what flavor of Agile do they come in as? Because for Scrum, they'd be can both be considered a Scrum Master, correct?
Yes, your scrum as a scrum master, you can still play the role of a coach at times. You can play
Mm-hmm.
the you can bring in your experience as a mentor. And the thing about PMI's exam is that you have to be careful about when they're specifically talking about Scrum, where now you'd have a team of 5 to 7, and you would have a Scrum Master with
Mm-hmm.
cross-functional team members, right? Versus when they're just talking about an Agile team, where you would have either a servant leader or an Agile project manager, and then
Right.
you would have, a tester and a developer,
Right.
and so you've got to be able to decipher when they're talking about Scrum, when they're talking
Mm-hmm.
about just Agile, when they're talking about extreme programming. Those are the
Right.
three that you really need to look at.
Right. And
Um,
from what I did notice on this test, and I think for anybody who's for Alton and whoever's going to watch this, that PMI ACP tests are going to be different, like the PMP. Any test that you take, it's not going to be the
right.
same mode. So
Yeah.
in this iteration, I may have only gotten less than 10% different flavor of agile, meaning is it scrum, is it lean, is it extreme programming?
Right.
Like it's not even
Right. Right.
overt to
Right.
like XP or this. The only times that you'll figure out that if it is the situation that you put. I'll give you an example that's not directly the question. um One of them was your team, one of your new team members is having a difficult time trying to catch up on code. What should you do? And one of the examples that was led in, and because like it's in the situation, and the answers became situational, whereas like, hey, do we tell your functional manager? Do we tell this? But one of the things that does say there is that, hey, partner them up with a more experienced coder. So which is pair programming through XP. So I don't know if that was the right approach or not. And I was just thinking to myself, hey, is this sounds right? This is what I would do in real life.
Okay, so I noticed that right before you took the exam, you asked me a few questions on LinkedIn. Did you get my answers before you took the exam?
I did, and you know
Okay.
what? I tried reading through it, like, and that's the reason. That's the reason why, like, it took me a while to finish all 120 questions, because on the practice exams, I was going through it within 45 minutes. It took me an hour, 10 hour, 20 minutes to go through. Because what I ended up doing was I read the last portion of the question, which is
Hmm.
what is the actual question, backed
Hmm.
away, read the whole thing twice, and then read all the available solutions. And
Uh-huh.
then I read the last question again to make sure what are you exactly asking for? Because that's what I ended up doing for the PMP. And
So,
you
so,
know,
let, so let me back it up. On the ACP exam, is it similar
mhm.
to the PMP exam where you can right click an A, B, C, or D and it'll strike through an answer?
You know what? No, it didn't even let me strike through in this one.
And
I was
let you
right
do that,
clicking
and it
through
does,
it.
and it doesn't allow you to right click and highlight a part of the question as well.
No, it didn't let me this time
It
around.
lets you
No,
do that. Okay, that's good to know. Good to know.
yeah, and
Okay,
also you don't
so
have breaks in this one.
and no breaks.
No breaks. No breaks. Because I was really hoping at the 60-minute, 60 question mark, like, all right, I'm gonna go pee like in the PMP at the 80 or 90th question. They'll let you have that 10-minute break that doesn't count against your time. But it
Hmm.
just kind of blew through. I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go sit here in the long run. But I
Well, I
did take
think
your.
I think if you take a break, your time is just running then, right? Or are you not allowed to take a
Oh,
break?
on the ACP, you are not allowed to take a break.
Wow.
You're not
Okay.
allowed to take a break.
Okay.
I mean, it is a shorter test, and from what I read, PMI does understand it's an easier exam, which I get. But the tough part about it is, and it's to not PMA's fault, because I'm pretty sure product wise, the PMP is more popular for PMA, but there's some stuff there that may be a little bit behind as far as how the testing is concerned. I don't know when the last time they swapped the ACP exam, because I think they do update every year, right? So some of the questions, I felt like in this test, it wasn't so much knowledge based on how a lot of people told me it was going to be, but it was really more situational based.
Mm.
One of the questions that kind of made me go, "Yo, this is just straight up situational," is it asked me again, without breaking the ethical code, it asked me somewhere along the lines of your stakeholders are upset that they don't know what's going on with the project, but during your sprint reviews, they didn't show up to any of your sprint reviews. What happens now? So it now starts becoming like your standard PMP exam question.
Right.
Whereas I was so prepared on, oh wait, this is what XP, this is what lean is, and this is what this is. So
So,
mhm.
okay. So, well, this is really interesting. I there are times when people fail the exam, and I'll tell them like, hey, listen, you got the flavor of an exam that just was right for you to fail. Go
Mhm.
take another one, right? I'll listen to their entire story. So let me let's get to that and see where you're at. So
Yeah.
you took 6 practice exams. The first one, it looks like you actually
Oh, let
attempted
me open it
it.
up.
Yeah, pull that up. The second two was like you were playing around, and
Hmm.
then 88, 91, 85%.
Right. So the
Right.
88, I got that after going through this, and I ended up going. So yeah, I didn't take a bunch of random tests. I specifically picked each chapter,
Mm-hmm.
and I did multiple iterations of it. So every time I would go through, I would answer one, and if I got it wrong, I will leave it wrong. But I
Uh-huh.
would look at the answer and see why that was the answer. So I kind of just walked away from learning through this, and I'll give you a good example right now. Let me open up this one. Chart.
Yeah, I mean, seeing your scores are all in the 90%.
Yeah. So, oh, oops, return. Let's see here. So, like, I would just go, boop. Okay, I got that one right, and then I would just go to next question, and then try to answer again after I answer it. So it becomes this like, and I learned a lot through that. But maybe again, the flavor of the test that I did get was where it kind of fell through the cracks. And also, like, I was reading through this one, the Head First Agile book. It's great.
Uh-huh.
It's super easy read. Marked it even. I marked the actual examination portions. Wish I read this before I joined your class because it would have given me a little bit more structure, and
Uh-huh.
going through your class would have filled in the structure more rather than me trying to
Did
build
that
the
happen for
structure.
you?
Um, that's just how my brain is.
No, but I mean, but I'm asking you, did that happen? Did the head first give you structure, and then when you took my class, did it fill it in, or like what
Oh,
happened?
no, no, I wish I did it the other way around because your
Ah,
class
okay.
was very engaging and I liked it a lot. I liked your class a lot. So I wish that I did this first. I mean, thankfully I did have some agile background. So when you were giving me, well, when you were teaching the foundational stuff through PMA, I understood what you were saying and I knew immediately how to apply it because I've already worked in a Scrum team. I've worked with Kanban. I've
Okay.
worked with some aspects of Lean, not all of Lean, but some aspects of it. So it made it a little bit more. I guess the best word to use is tactile because now it's
Mm-hmm.
real. So it's good. It was good. But yeah. So back into the exam. I mean, um, I went through the whole technique book that PMA gives, which is again like read the last part, then read the question, then read your options, and read the last part, then make a decision. And then your advice earlier today, which was great, which was, hey, get rid of the two that doesn't sound right, and you make a choice between the two. And if you can't make a choice between the two, choose the longest one. I did do that. So
Okay.
those were probably right because of your advice. So yeah,
Well, it's
like
hard. It's hard to say. So with the ACP, it's a little bit different. If I compare it
mhm,
to the PMP, I usually tell people that you need to take 6 or 7 exams, and most of the time people don't like the scores aren't linear. They don't go up linearly. They kind of hold at that 50, 60 range, and then by the sixth or the seventh exam, all of a sudden their scores go up. And then the time they're taking to exam stays up, taking a full 3.5, 4 hours, 4 hours, and all of a sudden by the sixth or the seventh, it takes them 2.5, 2 hours.
right.
And like so you see this chart When the two lines converge, it's like, oh, they're ready. Scores are going up, time is going down. Okay,
Right.
you're ready. That usually happens at 6 to 7. The ACP is a little bit different. It's one of those things where if you have your PMP and you're familiar with PMI's methodology, and I don't mean their methodology in terms of project management, but I mean in how their multiple choice exam is, then typically if you already had experience as a scrum master, I mean, I've had maybe 15, 20 people do this. I tell them you can just go take the ACP exam right now and you can go pass it, because now that you understand how PMI is asking you questions and you understand how to
Mm-hmm.
take that exam, there's only but so many different ways that they can ask you an agile question. They're
Right.
only going to give you many different scenarios. So you actually got a scenario based exam. I believe that's what PMI does.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there is this part of me that wonders, like, if you went to just go take another exam tomorrow, if you wouldn't pass and if you
Oh,
wouldn't get an above
oh, let's
target.
go throw another five
I
hundred
mean,
dollars.
I know.
I
So
mean,
this exam was what
I'm more than
was
willing to
for.
be honest. I'm more than willing to. Uh,
Well, let's proceed with caution here. Let's make sure we
yeah.
do things right.
No,
All right, so
actually, in reality, I think I'm probably going to go schedule it for Monday. And I know that
okay,
a lot of this stuff that I'm asking is very conditional because it's obviously conditional to me and like the environment that I took the test in, which he couldn't
sure.
even share to begin with, right? But I do want to go change gears a little bit into more in the professional setting because I'm not too sure
Okay.
what Alton is whether he's a student or well, I'm assuming he's a student because he's in the library, but but and for all of us really that will ever consume this piece of media that you're creating, well, professionally, where can we actually go? And I'm gonna go share a little bit on mine if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
Okay, so I'm a PMP doing my ACP right now. I'm also an SA. I'm a Safe Agilist 5.1, the newest version, the latest and
Nice.
greatest, I guess. Uh, I'm a CSM, CSPO. We'll be taking the ACSPO pretty soon, as well as the ProSci Change Management Certificate.
Ah,
I
very
know it's
nice.
completely. I know that's getting off tangent, but I took Cecilio's advice because I know that a lot more business leaders have been so much more open to agile development and not so much just on software, but to holistically within their business divisions or their business. Well, there's people like us who needs to apply agile within those business and having that change management procedure and knowledge will make us more valuable to said company. So in my goal set, I'm actually going to go finishing up my Lean Six Sigma black belt this week as well. So
Very nice.
so I'm doing that,
Gathering them
and
all up. Gathering them
yeah,
all
yeah.
up. Okay.
So and it sounds like I'm just doing everything, including the AWS certification, Google Cloud, three more products from Safe. So all the product owning positions and the lean portfolio, ITIL for the uh, SDLC, so software development lifecycle. And it's weird.
Uh-huh.
I'm only doing that for that little portion so I can tell people, hey, I know how SDLC works. That all said, would companies ever look at me and go, whoa, why did you get so many certs?
Potentially, yes.
So
Potentially, yes.
how do I properly scale it, especially when I am back in the job market? So I took some time off to go to grad school because the scholarship's great and I'm able to use my GI Bill on top of that too. So I'm able
Nice.
to sustain myself financially and really just focus on professional development. But so how do I properly scale it and how would I actually know when to bring these up? Do I even list it in my resume? Do I only bring that up during the interview?
These are great questions. Great questions. Okay.
Mhm.
So I will tell you, for instance, when I consult with, let's say, companies in Silicon Valley that are pure software development, I will strip the PMP from my resume.
Right.
So the answer to that question is yes. Depending on the question about do I remove some certifications or not, depending on the company, the industry, and the role, then
Mm-hmm.
you list the certifications that you think are going to be valid for that role. And those certifications should also match what your experience is or the job that you're trying to get. All right.
Right.
And you want your resume to tell a story. Think of your at a certain point, don't think of your resume as a resume, think of it as a CV. All right. And think of it like if you've heard that term CV, right? So
Yeah.
go for those of you guys out there in the world, go look up that term CV and find out what it means. But it's one of those things where you wanted to tell a story of the progression of your professional development and how you've landed at this moment in time to match this role and how the match is there. And now what we're really trying to see is there a fit? Because there's two things with the companies. It's if you think about getting a job, it's kind of like getting married. All right. The resume is when both parties, like the job description that they put out there, and then the resume that you put, that's everybody getting dressed up in nice clothes, putting on makeup, doing your hair, going out, and we're trying to meet people. We're trying to find somebody that's a match for us, right? And then when we find a match, it's like, hey, you're a match. Let's go out on a date. That's the interview. The interview is the dating process. And oftentimes you may have to date family members, right? So before, I don't know if you're married, David, but when you have a girlfriend, or for
Yeah.
those girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it may be, you have to then go out, and sometimes you have to go and date the family members too. You might have to meet a brother or sister. You might have to meet a best friend, and they need to know who you are, right? So in the professional world, that's the same thing as, okay, now that you've interviewed with maybe the hiring manager, why don't you go interview with my team, see if they like you? Why don't you
Hmm.
go interview with another department? So there are some companies that will put you through 3, 4, 5 rounds of interviews with different departments or different roles within that organization. And all of that is just dating. And you're dating to see, hey, should we get married? And that marriage is when they actually offer you the job. Because
Right.
once they offer you the job, it's like now it's depending on what state you're in, it's like a
Hmm.
contract, right?
Right.
So if you think of it in that terms, then your job is to attract the best mate as possible. That mate being the company that you want to work for. And
Hmm.
so you need to be attractive to them. It's sort of like animals that puff up their feathers or make sounds or whatnot, right? So okay, what does this mean? What it means is on your resume is if you're going for, let's say, a product owner role, then you want to put the product owner stuff that you have on there, and you want to leave the other stuff off. You don't need
Hmm.
to put change management. You don't need to put Lean Six Sigma if you're not looking to do process improvement work. You don't need to put the PMP.
Hmm.
Although I would say the PMP is probably one of those that you can leave. It's
Because it's a brand
MI
name.
has Yeah, they've done a good job of positioning their credential as a de facto credential around the globe. But you know,
Hmm.
aside from that, you do want to be
Well,
able to strip some things off.
oddly enough, you know what I'm actually more scared of. So a lot of my experience as a product owner and a product owner and project implementation manager
Hmm.
was through startup companies, and there is this weird animosity for MBA holders. So I'm getting my
At a
MBA right
startup
now.
company.
Yeah. Well, for a lot of technologists, let's really call it for what it is. Like the only people that like MBA people are other MBA people, and maybe your
Yeah,
HR
there's
teams that go like, "Oh, you're educated," but like I've met Scrum masters who are like, "I hate MBA people. What are you gonna make me do? What things that I already know?" And granted, at least I can swing back because I have got my teeth cut first in startups, and I've done the thing, so at least I can do that. But how do I come about that? Because and you made a great point about dating family, right? And I've been through interviews prior to me going in going back to school and doing all this stuff, where I've got stuck at the third interview when they were trying to figure me out as a culture fit, right? And I tried playing it in different ways where like I wanted to be the subject matter expert. That didn't work. I tried playing it smart and being insightful. That didn't work. I tried going in there as a friend of the developers. That didn't work either. So what is it about those culture fit interviews that we have to go look for in order to be like, yeah, this guy's the right one?
because you just need to be you. Don't
Ah.
try to be the subject matter expert. Don't try to be this. Don't try to be that. Just be you. Because listen, as much as the company's interviewing you, you are interviewing them. You
Right.
need to know, do I want to be at that place? So don't present anything that now it's going to take energy and effort to sustain over time and hold up this persona. I
Mm-hmm.
will tell you that, oftentimes and this is why we have to date family members, because it's like, I may be enamored with this person, with this beautiful person. I really think that they're going to be great. But once my family member meets them, they're like, oh, hold up. That person didn't open the door for you. That person didn't wait for you to sit down to eat. That person didn't, all kinds of things that, and you're like, oh, I didn't notice that. Why? Because we were so enamored with the shine and the glitz and the glamour, whether it was the name of the company, whether it's the title that they're offering, whether it's the amount of money that the position would pay. Like sometimes those things can blind us. So I will tell you, don't try to be anything. Just be who you are. That's number
Mhm.
one. Number two is, let's look at the role. So, well, let me back it up, and I want to touch on the MBA piece. One of the things that you can do to sort of to keep that MBA that stigmatism is place your education at the bottom of your resume, of your
It is
CV. Like,
already.
okay, so good. It says there at the bottom, MBA. And then if you have an MBA, you don't even have to call it MBA. Why don't you just have a master's of business from this school and leave it at that?
Right.
Master's degree in business, right? If it
Mhm.
comes up in interview process, then you can speak to it and you can say what you've learned there, and how it's, and I use this a lot. It is just another tool in my tool belt. Right. I
Mhm.
talk about the fact that, like you, I have all of these certifications. They're just tools in the tool belt. So I am not a PMP. I am not a Scrum Master. I'm not a Six Sigma person. I'm not a change management. I'm just CJ, that some folks know me as Cecilio, right?
Mhm.
And I happen to know all of these things. And when given said scenario, I can use that tool to bring it out. And then what makes me valuable to that company is then my personality, who I am, how I either get along with people, how I am able to break down barriers, how I'm able to get people to communicate. Those are the things that you want to focus on, the intangibles that you bring. Like, who is David, and what is David known for? What were you known for when you were in the service? Like, what do people think about you? What would they say about you?
No, I was a decent soldier. I was a decent engineer soldier. So
You're a decent engineer shoulder. So, and what does that really mean to someone who's not in the service? What does an engineer soldier mean?
that's not in the service. Somebody that's sent in when others can't figure out things. So anybody
Ah,
that,
so you
yeah.
you're a fixer.
Hmm.
You're a fixer.
Yeah.
That's what you need to let people know. That you need, hey, I'm just the guy that, when things get rough and when others can't seem to do the job for whatever reason, my specialty is I can come in, I can figure it out, and I can find a solution, and I do it with a smile on my face. Right? Because you seem like a person that's always happy. You're always smiling. I'm looking at you. Like, those are the things that you need to let people know. It's like, hey, I'm fun to be around.
Hmm.
All this other stuff is extra. The fact that I have an MBA, the fact that I know change management, the fact that I know, process improvement, all of those things are really just extras. But
Right.
who you're marrying the good soldier engineer. You're marrying the person that comes in, that fixes things when others can't.
All right.
That,
Well, I think I'm
right?
gonna go do that pitch. That's a
Like,
good
think
one.
about that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
who
yeah.
you are. Like, that's what separates David from every other resume on the stack. Because
Mhm.
trust me, there's a ton of other people who are going to have all those certifications, all the education,
Right.
experience up the wahoo. But given a difficult scenario, will they fold under the pressure? Right?
Hmm.
They say pressure either busts pipes or makes diamonds. Which ones are
Hmm.
they?
Right.
It sounds like you're a diamond, and you got to let people know that. You got to be able to say that hey, I've been in enough pressure scenarios that this is what I'm known for. This is what people say about me. This is what
Hmm.
I do, and I enjoy doing it. And so that's what you need to get across in the interview. Now, how do you translate that onto your resume so that people see that, and then they want, like, how that can attract you to them? Well, some of that needs to be on your LinkedIn profile, because that's the number one thing employers are going to do. The first thing they're going to do, then go look at your LinkedIn profile. So on your
Hmm.
LinkedIn profile, you need to be able to say that. You need to be able to have media on there that, whether you do informational interviews with people, that you can, like how we're doing this on Zoom, that you can, and I will send you the link to this recording so that you can have this, and like you can have that up on your LinkedIn. You can cut some of the moments here that talks about who you are. Right? I'm serious. That's what you need to do so people can see that. You can do informational interviews with other people. You can have folks who know you, who have worked with you, and just say, hey, come up with 5 or 6 questions. When you think of me, what do you think of? If you had to describe my best quality, what would it be? If you had to say how I perform under pressure, give me a sentence or two. What's the worst thing about me? Like, because
Hmm.
we're all not perfect. We all have our things, right?
Right.
Get 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 5 or 10 people, maybe five that you know, 5 people that you kind of loosely know, but you know them professionally, and see if they're willing to on camera state these about you. And
Hmm.
now you can have a collection of those things that you can then go put onto your LinkedIn page, number one. Number two, then what are some of the other accomplishments that you have? Like aside from from your professional stuff. Like for instance, in my case, people know me as either a baseball player or a boxer. And so they know, oh, okay, this guy's competed in some things and he's done some stuff like that. People know that, oh, I brew kombucha or I worm compost or I have a garden. Like these are like weird things, right? See how you like kind of like these are things that like, oh, that's interesting. You do that? And then, oh, okay, I guess it makes sense. He's a project manager. He does. I can see that, right?
Right.
Find those things about yourself that you do that people can, okay, it makes sense, that they can connect the dots and they can see that about you, so that now that they understand who you are as a person, aside from just what you bring to the table, whether it be from a certification standpoint, from an education standpoint, or from an experience standpoint. Because there's what, how many people now? Are there 8 billion people? Have we
Yeah,
reached the 8 billion people in the world yet? Right?
probably. Don't know.
Probably, or somewhere there, right? Somewhere between
Yeah.
7 and 8 billion, right?
Yeah.
So there's probably millions of people who are just like you in
Hmm.
on paper, but outside of paper, none of those people are David.
Yeah. So no, that's really sound advice. Thank you for that. So I guess this next one, uh, I actually this is something I've been trying to work on conceptually because I only have so many friends who are in product, that are still in product, and let's really call it for what it is. Product management is in middle management for most companies because you're not
Sure.
really a decision maker. You're a facilitator of good, if especially you're working with software, of creating good product.
Uh-huh.
But how do you transition into the next step? What is the most viable next position, and how do I line myself up to be in the next position? Because I've worked as a product manager now for the past 4 years, and I still have some in me. I can work out there, and like I don't mind it. But you know what? I think it is time for me to at least start strategizing and really looking into what is next. And that's why I was looking into the PGMP and as well as the Safe LPM, because I want to at least show that, hey, not only I can do product, I can manage other product managers and really give them good guidance because I know X, Y, and Z. And that's ultimately the other reason why I got the MBA, is because I don't want to be a product manager forever. Like I'd like to be in charge,
Sure.
and not only in charge, to actually make good decisions that impacts the company. So,
So you want
how
to
do
you
I
want to
go
move
about
from middle management to basically executive management, because the next level
Sure.
is director and above, right? So you're
Sure.
talking about an executive position. Okay. So I will tell you the biggest difference between, let's okay, employee is, see, now I don't know military ranks, so I'm probably going to botch this, right? But so I'm not going to use military ranks. I'm going to give a better example, a more real life example for all the other viewers out there. So it's something like this. When you have a job and you're an employee, you're kind of like, you have a task and you're given these tasks and you go do it, and
Mhm.
then eventually become a supervisor. And so you become the person that's like can make sure that people do the task the correct way, in the correct order. All right. And they show up on time and they do the process stuff, right? And then you become a manager. And at that point, now you're starting to manage people. Now it's about, how do I put the right personalities in the right order? How do I, have this person have growth? And how do I get them to do the things that they're supposed to do? Okay. As you go from a manager to an executive, it changes a lot. And it changes
Right.
from not just managing people, but it's now developing people. So a lot of the difference is that you're not really instructing people on what to do or how to do things. You're really questioning them, and you're forcing them to become introspective, and through that introspective and that inward looking, kind of develop their own path. And so you're laying out maybe 3 or 4 potential ways that they could go, right? You're setting the strategy in terms of, hey, we need to accomplish X, Y, and Z. This is where we need to go. But you're not laying the path for them. You're asking them questions. You're having them become introspective so that they can see, what are my skill sets? What am I lacking? And based on what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, what do I need to go acquire in order to develop that roadway so that I can bring my team behind me and we can all travel smoothly on this road. You become you move from the person that is telling people drive on this road and go at 1300 hours and go only for so many minutes in this X, Y, and Z coordinates to, okay, we need to get to the other side of that mountain. These are the tools that we have. This is the talent that's behind us. What is it about you that is going to help your people get over there? And you help that person strategize how they use their tools, how they deploy those tools. And those tools are either the machines and materials, in some cases, the people as resources. I don't like calling people like resources because in this, but for the purpose of this conversation, that's the idea, right? How do we get people to understand how to move their pieces of the almost like chess, move those pieces, but not just to get to the other side? That you're helping that manager lay the road work. So it becomes less of directing people and telling them what to do, and it becomes more of helping them become better at their job. And becoming better at their job isn't, that's like cliche. It's really about helping them understand, what are you not good at and how do you go get better, and what should you not waste your time trying to get better at, because you're never going to be good at that, but that's okay. That's why we have a team, right? So that's what executive leadership is really about. It's more so about getting people to follow a strategic plan, but allowing them to create the road work so that they can bring their team with them. Ooh, excuse me. So that they can bring their team sort of with them on that path. So now that's the long-winded version of me saying, like, for you to get to that level was not necessarily like getting the certifications and the PGMP and all those things. Those are going to help, but ultimately it's going to be time spent at your company developing other managers or other people to become managers. And when they see that you have that skill, that's where you're going to jump from middle management to executive management. Like,
Right.
without that ability, then so you need time to be able to show that you can
Sure.
develop managers.
Sure. I mean, I've had the opportunity to do that in some startup companies, right? Because everybody wears multiple hats, and especially
Right.
in one of my roles, I had to go open up new, not necessarily verticals, but new business divisions within the company, right? And meaning, hey, I need to go empower somebody to lead this portion of the business for it to run right, and I've done that. But it's a double-edged sword, right? Because it's kind of hard to prove to startup to people, especially traditional companies, like coming from a startup company, that I do have this experience. And also, if I do decide to go be a product manager, which again, don't mind at all, willing to go do it for a few more years, well, how do I end up trying to mentor other product managers if I am a product manager? And especially if they are, let's say, a bigger corporation I end up working at that runs on sync, and I'm not a scrum master. I'm not part of the scrum of scrums, and I'm a product owner. Well, how am I going to be able to foster other product owners, and how do I prove that to the stakeholders? Because really, my boss is a stakeholder, the stakeholder
Right.
above me, to understand that, hey, David Canlis is ready to be a executive. So how do I communicate that, and how do I position myself to climb up in that direction?
Great question. So there's a couple ways. One, it's not about you necessarily mentoring other product owners or other product managers, and we'll talk about the difference between those two in a second. But it's mostly about you then finding that scrum master, that developer, that engineer that has the talent to become either a scrum master or a product owner, and helping them foster those skill sets and then helping them move up the chain. That's the first thing. All right. Like, if you want to be able to show that, it's not that, oh, let me find some of my peers and let me, sort of mentor them. No, it's let me identify those people, right? Because at that level, at the executive level, it's about you identifying talent and then developing that talent. So you've got to go find those people within, whether it's your team or other teams. So now, how do you do that? Well, if you have your team, you can do that, but oftentimes you also have to reach across other teams. So that means that you have to take on stretch goals. You have to do things that are a little bit above and beyond what your normal job is. So one of the things that you want to do is you always want to volunteer for extra work. All right, that just face it. If you want to move up, that's what you got to do. All right, if it's in the corporate world, you have to volunteer for that extra work. You're also going to have to create work. meaning that like when you see opportunities or when you see things that aren't right, you need to go to management and don't just say, hey, I saw something here, I want to work on it. You need to go to them and say, I've noticed that we're lacking in this particular locale, right? Let's say if we're talking about product management, it could be that, as a product manager, then you should know what your product is, what your competitors are doing, what the academic research is saying, right? What the customers want. And all of that is helping you to prioritize the next features and functions, also based on the talent that you have. So you should be able to say, okay, I noticed that we're lacking in this area. I went and I looked at a couple of our competitors, and they have these three things in place that we don't have today. And so I started questioning around, and I figured out that if we can put X, Y, and Z in place, A, B, and C can happen. And if we start with 1, 2, and 3, I think we'll be well on our way.
Mm-hmm.
I've identified a couple people who can potentially fit the role. But before I even go there, I just want to present this to you and see what your thoughts are. Now, regardless of if they choose to go that route or not, you've already shown them that, oh, David's thinking on this level. David's thinking strategically about what we have to do and not just tactically. And so that's the next step, right? It's developing people, right? So not your peers, but developing others to become your peers, right? Because when they're successful, that shows that you're success, number one. Number two, then it's finding extra work or volunteering for extra stuff to show that you can do more than the other people, right? Let's just call it what it is. And then number three, you're laughing at that because it sounds like it's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a
Okay.
double-edged sword. They're like, wow, you're really good.
Double-edged
Here's
sword.
more work. Like,
Yeah, here's more work.
ah.
Yep. It's like, man, if I can get my job done in 20 hours, everybody else takes 40 hours. Why
Yeah.
should I have to work 40 hours? But that's just kind of what it is, right?
Right,
And then
right.
number three, then it's looking for the gaps or for the holes
Mm-hmm.
that exist within the organization, and then finding some solution to it and being able to present it in a manner that people can digest, understand, and make a decision, yes or no, right? It doesn't matter whether they go with it or not. What matters is, did you present it in a manner that people could understand and digest? And did you present it in a way that they're like, okay, this makes sense, but we probably can't do it, or this makes sense and yes, we should do it. Like, so those are the three things: developing talent, doing extra work, finding the gaps and the holes, and offering solutions that people can understand and roll with.
Got you.
If you can
No,
do those
that
three things, then you show clearly you're going to be an executive.
yeah. I think I'm almost there, but I just need to find a company that I am gonna stick with for a while, because like the crux of a lot of tech folk, and I know that I'm talking about, where their life cycle within the company is like about 1 to 2 years, because everything's moving so fast. And the most talented people always often get end up and the companies that pay the most, right? Go
Right,
figure.
right.
So, and this one's a short question for you. So,
Okay.
with all that said, by the way, I also have like additional training for Jira, Tableau, Asana, like the actual tactile tools to be used. Um, how do I communicate with a hiring manager or whoever the portfolio manager that is trying to hire a product owner? Communicate that, hey, the thing that you might be using, I don't know, let's use ClickUp, for instance, which is a project management tracker, or
Mm-hmm.
PMT. So a project management tracker that's not Jira or Asana. Well, how do I
Mm-hmm.
communicate with them? Like, hey, I am familiar with that. Or let's say the company that I applied for runs on AWS, but I know Google. I have a GGC certification, or GPC, Google professional certification. So a GPC.
Mm-hmm.
So how do I tell them or communicate with them like, hey, it is actually the equivalent to what you're looking for?
Ah, I see. Um, Let me rephrase your question. If you don't have on your resume that you have a specific skill set in their tool, how do you show them that, hey, I know how to use your tool?
Oh, you're telling me to go do it.
I was getting there, but I was asking you, right?
Go
That's
do
that's
it.
basically what I would. That's what I would do. I would
All
I would
right.
go create a project. I would listen. I would, if you're targeting the company and let's say they use Asana,
Yeah.
and you know Asana, but you haven't used it in an enterprise location or an organization, I would go create a project plan in Asana, and I would put it on LinkedIn. I
Huh.
would go use Asana. I would even, for that company, I would look at that company, look at what like everybody has a website, every company has a website, and every company says like what they're pursuing, what they've done, what they're
Mhm.
doing, and what they're going to do. And I would go look at what they're going to do, and I would go create a project plan in the tool that they use that says,
Mhm.
hey, you guys are going to go do this. I have experience doing that. And if I were to do it, this is how I would do it, although I'm open to your ways. And here's the
Yeah.
tool that you guys use. So I decided to just use it in your tool anyway, so that way I could communicate with you.
Yeah. No, that's a yeah.
Yeah,
although
I mean,
although in all fairness, like there are some software projects that they're gonna look at you and go, what are you doing, man?
well, I mean, if you say, "What are you doing?" then it's like, well,
Oh, just want to prove to you
I
I know how
wanted
to
you,
that's
yeah,
on it. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Sure.
you
Sure.
just want to, you can be straight up, be like, well, I see that you guys use this tool, but I didn't have it on my resume, so I wanted you to know that I know how to use it. And then I see that you guys are going this direction, and it intrigued me. It's what excited me about the role. So a
Mhm.
lot of this is also you selling yourself to them, like, oh, excited me about the role. Oh, he's excited about the role. I see what you're trying to do. Oh, he already understands what we're trying to do. Great. That's less onboarding time with this person. And here's a tool that you guys already use. So I wanted to be familiar with it and kind of play around with it, right? You don't have to say that I wanted to show you, but I wanted to be, all right, I thought the tool was kind of cool. And so I started
Yeah.
playing around with it and I went down the rabbit hole. And by the time I was done, here's what I came up with. What do you
Mhm.
think?
Right. Oh, that
And they're
HR
like,
person's
oh,
probably gonna be like, oh, I don't even know what your workflow is, man. Like, stuff looks good though.
right, right. So I mean, it's
Right.
just one of those things where and you find the right balance of how deep you want to go in with that. But I mean, that's to think about that. If I'm hiring, if I'm like the company that I consult with, and I have to hire Scrum Masters, and if I'm looking for 10 Scrum Masters, all right, or I'm looking for one Scrum Master, so I get 10, 15 resumes, right, that I've got to go shortlist to 3 or 4 people to interview. If one of those people's like, oh yeah, oh, and I saw that you guys use Jira, so and I saw that you guys were trying to do this, and this is what I came up with, I would be like, oh, nope, holy, what, really? That
Yeah.
would that would already be something that's different that nobody else is thinking about doing,
Right. Right.
right? And I shouldn't
Okay.
say nobody. There are people out there, but like the stuff that I'm telling you about putting on your LinkedIn and have these video assets and stuff. How many people do you know in your circle that have done this?
None, because a lot of them are in startups. So,
No,
and
I
it's
mean,
always
so
word of mouth.
none. So,
Yeah.
so oh, yeah, that's word of mouth. And so, I mean, but still, even with the word of mouth, imagine if you're competing against 5 other people, and each of you has word of mouth, some sort of a
Referrals
backup
into the
or
company. Right.
referrals. This is what's
Well,
going to put you over the hump.
yeah. Well, anywho, well, CJ, thank you so much for everything. Like I'm not trying to blow smoke up wherever, but I really did learn a lot from your class, and I think I took your
Thank you.
course in July. And I know that there's been some time, but I do feel a lot more comfortable in the agile space now, especially actually having foundational knowledge rather than just picking up osmotically and being in a agile team, right? On like, hey, this is how your Kanbans work and everything else. And now I actually know where anything is, and now I can actually justify why we do specific things, right? So I really
Oh man,
appreciate
I
that.
appreciate that.
And
Thank
this
you.
isn't just about me passing the ACP, but I do want to share my appreciation to you and to let Alton know as well that this man knows what he's talking about.
All right. Okay. Well, I guess I was auditioning for Alton. So, all right, Alton, come on down and take my class too, man. No, no, David, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah,
And listen, I'm always here. So if you got questions, I got answers.
we'll do. I'll
Let me
let you know
know.
next week what happens.
All right. Good luck.
All right, take care.
All right. Take care. See you.